Brian. Hi, this is Sarah Palin.
Brian, Donald Trump Jr.
Hogs to win, see ya. Hey, everybody, I want y'all to check out a fellow Marines podcast.
My name is Ted Nugent, and I got a call from my buddy Ryan F. Samuels, and he wants me to tell you that he's a working hard, playing all-American son of a who is celebrating God, family, country.
Welcome to the Ryan Samuels Show, one of the top political podcasts in the United States, where we have a healthy distrust for government and mainstream media. The Ryan Samuels Show is a raw, unfiltered look at American politics. Follow on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Here is your host, Ryan Samuels.
Hello, Patriots. Big news, kind of big news. Donald Trump annihilated the Iowa caucus. Now, the Iowa caucus historically is not really known for its prediction of who's going to become president. I think that the last time the president won the Iowa caucus was 20 years ago or something like that. But it shows a very strong indicator of just how ahead Donald Trump is in the polls. He won every single county in Iowa, reportedly, and he got about 76% of the vote. He was so far ahead that they called it before anybody even started voting, because the entrance polls, everybody was like, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. So they were like, yeah, we're just going to call this because this guy's going to win it. So that's how far ahead he is, and that is the strength that he has behind his campaign. A couple of other things, some mitigating factors that we need to understand. Number one, it was freezing cold. It was freezing cold. I think it was like negative 24 degrees or something in Iowa. It was zero, whatever it was. It was freezing cold. Now, Donald Trump supporters will literally run through fire and ice to vote for Donald Trump. Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley supporters, they don't have that type of loyalty, that type of support. I mean, the people who like Donald Trump are going to do everything in their power that they can to help the man. I mean, that's just it. Right, wrong, indifferent. I'm not saying that I'm that way, or that's the way that it is, or it's right, or if it's wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that he has momentous support. And his support base is going to vote for Donald Trump, period. They're going to. They don't care. Tornado, hurricane, blizzard, they're going to get out there and they're going to vote. And the Biden supporters are not as loyal as the Trump supporters. So this is a strong indication of the race in 2024, the actual primary race, not the primary race, the candidate, the presidential race. So Biden he's the lowest in the polls that any president has been in like 15 years. His approval rating is 33%. 76% of the country feel like it's going in a different direction, going in the wrong direction, which is the poll that you really go by. That's the main poll that shows how the American people truly feel. So that is what Joe Biden is going to be competing against. Now, the left is completely melting down. They're melting down. MSNBC, CNN, they refuse to play his speech. We'll get into that in a little bit later. But here's what Donald Trump had to say after just the shellacking at the Iowa caucus.
Well, I want to thank everybody. This has been some period of time, and most importantly, we want to thank the great people of Iowa. Thank you. We love you all. What a turnout, what a crowd. And I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world and straighten out the problems and straighten out all of the death and destruction that we're witnessing. That's practically never been like this. It's just so important, and I want to make that a very big part of our message. We're going to come together. It's going to happen soon, too.
So very smart on Donald Trump. He's not attacking the Democrats. He's not attacking his opponents. He now knows that he's so far ahead that it's not going to do him any good to, you know, beat up DeSantis or Nikki Haley or any of them, or even attack the Democrats. Just to say, listen, he's being more presidential. Very smart for him to make that speech. He's being more presidential. Listen, we all need to come together. We need to stop all of this massive wars. The Israel-Gaza, it's what he's implying. So very intelligent for him to say that, because now he's building a case of unity where the Democrats are saying, you know, MAGAs are racist, MAGAs are white supremacists, MAGAs are psychopaths, MAGAs are whatever. They're January 6ers, they're insurrectionists, you know, whatever the heck they want to say. So here is Rachel Maddow. Melting down, of course. She's melting down. They don't want to admit this is going to happen. They live in such a fantasy world that they're not even close to reality. The Democrats are nowhere near reality on any issue. Let's listen to what MSNBC had to say with the news that Donald Trump just smoked the Iowa caucus.
The big picture takeaway from that, and I don't mean to be, again, too dark, as you said, on this, but it is not. If we are worried about the rise of authoritarianism in this country, we are worried about potential rise of fascism in this country. If we're worried about our democracy falling to an authoritarian and potentially fascist form of government.
Look at the eyes he's giving her, like, yeah, fascism, racist, keep going with that. It excites me when you say that. It gives me action.
The leader who is trying to do that is part of that equation. Mm-hmm. But people wanting that is a much bigger part of that equation. Right. And the American electorate is made up of two major parties. One of those parties has been flirting with extremism on the ultra-right for a very long time. They've brought them in a way that they haven't been central to Republican electoral politics ever before, and I know because I've been studying this. But once you have radicalized one major party so that those are the preferences of the people who adhere to your party, the leader is interchangeable. And yes, Trumpism is sometimes what we call it. MAGA movement is probably a better way to do it. But there is an authoritarian movement inside Republican politics that isn't being bamboozled by Trump. They are pushing Trump to get more and more extreme, because the more extreme things he says, the more they adhere to him. And that is coming from a very large proportion of the American right that adheres to the Republican Party. And that's why this is a Republican Party problem more than it is the problem of one man and his leader.
Doesn't that tie together
No. I mean, absolutely not. There is no indication whatsoever that Donald Trump is, you know, going to be a dictator. Yeah, he said, oh, day one, I'm going to be a dictator. He's going to sign executive orders, is what he's saying. Which everybody, if you listen to the show, you know how I feel about executive orders. They're void. They're invalid. The president cannot make law. That's up to the Congress and the Senate, and then he signs off on it once it's approved by the representatives of the people. But that's a conversation for another day. Now, the base of the Conservative Party does not want totalitarianism. They're trying to stay away from totalitarianism. That's why they were against all the measures that took place in 2020, the seriously restrictive measures that hurt freedom of travel, freedom of movement, and body autonomy. But, you know, this is the mind of the left. Now, Joy Reid is a maniac. I mean, I think we all know that Joy Reid is just a psychopath, but she is blaming this on racism. There's no other answer in the world than racism. I mean, that's it. Let's listen to what she had to say.
But, you know, I feel like the important sort of data point, and you know, Steve talks about it a lot. He's going to probably talk about it a little more tonight, is that these are white Christians. That this is a state that is overrepresented by white Christians that are going to participate in these caucuses, especially tonight. Earlier today, reached out to Robbie Jones from the Public Religion Research Institute, knowing that we were going to talk about Iowa. And this is a hyper-evangelical white state. And he said the following to me: Iowa is about 61% white Christian.
Yeah, so what? But if you look, for those on the podcast who can't see this, on the bottom it says Iowa GOP caucus entrance poll. If Trump is convicted, is he fit to be president? 64% said yes, and only 31%, said no. But let's listen to Joy blame white people for the world's problems.
Country as a whole is approximately 41% white Christian. And in Iowa, we're talking about evangelical white Christians. And he said the following, because I asked him, what do they get out of supporting Donald Trump? Because he keeps losing, he keeps delivering losses and losses and losses. And he said the following, they see themselves as the rightful inheritors of this country, and Trump has promised to give it back to them. All the things that we think about electability, about, what are people gaming out, or none of that matters when you believe that God has given you this country, that it is yours, and that everyone who is not a white conservative Christian is a fraudulent American, is a less real American. Then you don't care about electability. You care about what God has given.
I mean, that's literally none of that is true. None of that is true, like, at all. So this is kind of a crappy video because I couldn't really find the original. This is somebody streaming from their phone and posted it on Twitter. This is MSNBC saying they're not going to air the Donald Trump's victory speech. They're just not going to air it. Listen to this.
I'm sorry, I just have to do a little bit of business just for a second. At this point in the evening, the projected winner of the Iowa caucuses has just started giving his victory speech. We will keep an eye on that as it happens. We will let you know if there's any news made in that speech, if there's anything noteworthy, something substantive and important. The reason I'm saying this is, of course, there is a reason that we and other news organizations have generally stopped giving an unfiltered live platform to remarks by former President Trump. It is not out of spite. It is not a decision that we relish. It is a decision that we regularly revisit. And honestly, earnestly, it is not an easy decision, but there is a cost to us as a news organization of knowingly broadcasting untrue things. That is a fundamental truth of our business and who we are. And so his remarks tonight will not air here live. We will monitor them and let you know about any news that he makes. Stephanie interrupted.
I was just saying, I believe that's why J.B. Pritzker.
So the people of Iowa have decided that Donald Trump is their guy. The people of Iowa have decided that. You are deciding to screen what he says before you post what he says. That is the premise of what you're saying here, right? Is that they don't deserve to know because it's not true. Who are you to decide what's true or not? As a journalist, as a news organization, you're there to report the story. And you can turn around and dispute what Donald Trump says during the speech. You can say, listen, he said this. Our investigating says that this is not true, but this is what he said. That's actual journalism. That's doing your due diligence. But the people of Iowa have spoken, and CNN and MSNBC have decided for the people of Iowa and for the people of the nation that, which is more than half of the nation, is in favor of Donald Trump. So more than half of the nation is being filtered information through a third party who is going to take what Donald Trump says and then filter out what they don't like and then submit to you. I mean, that's called controlling information. That's called controlling the narrative. You want to talk about fascism. You want to talk about totalitarianism or oligarchy, where the elite few can decide what's true and what's not and project what they want to the American people. That is that. Freedom of speech, he can say whatever he wants to say. Even if he's lying, he can lie. It's not up to you to restrict the people from hearing the person that they decided is going to be their president. Even if it's 10%, You shouldn't restrict what Joe Biden says either. You shouldn't restrict what Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. Let it flow. And then let the media debate it. Let the people debate it and the people decide. But simply by stopping him from speaking, you're telling us that you're afraid of what he's saying because you're trying to restrict him from becoming president. And that is shocking. And now, as the polls sit today, Joe Biden is not going to be president of the United States. As they sit today, we have a very long road ahead of us. You know, like I said earlier, the Iowa caucus is not a strong indicator of who's going to be president, but it does show the serious gap between the other candidates and Donald Trump. I mean, he won 76%. He won every single county in Iowa. That's crazy. I mean, that goes to show you just how supported he is, not only by the people of Iowa, but by the nation. To win every county in Iowa is pretty substantial. I mean, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis didn't even have a chance. They were like 50 points behind, 50% behind, 55, 60% behind. It's insane. But Joe Biden's polls are in the dump. Listen to this.
They aren't improving. In fact, they seem to be going in the other direction. Our poll this morning has Biden's approval rating at 33%. That's historically low for him, low for an incumbent president. It's at 15 years since we see numbers that low. And on the economy, it's even actually worse. Only 31% say that they approve of Biden's handling of the economy. They aren't improving.
No president has ever been reelected with numbers that low. No president's ever been elected with numbers that low. And the Democrats should be scared, and they are. They're clearly scared. Clearly. And they're freaking out. Their sole thing that they're leaning on is that Donald Trump gets convicted of a felony. Any felony, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the felony is, any felony. That he gets removed from ballots, that the Supreme Court supports that states can remove the president from ballots. Even though that, you know, the insurrection, Article 3, would not apply to him because he's not an insurrectionist. But, you know, I guess that's up to interpretation for the courts to decide. But most certainly the Supreme Court is going to come down and say, no, you can't just remove people from the ballots like that. Had he been convicted of insurrection, that's a different story. That's what I predict is going to come down. So that's kind of where we're at. I mean, Joe Biden's talking about how he made the economy great. If you look at Twitter and all the maniacs on Twitter, you can follow me at Twitter at Ryan F. Samuels. You can see that the economy is great. You're out of your mind. The economy is horrible. I mean, I read an article in the Wall Street Journal the other day that we're at a complete stop. We're not growing. We're not shrinking. We're at a stop. That's a problem. That's a major problem. It's like 1% growth. It's a quarter of where it should be, or a third of where it should be. The economy is horrible. Horrible. And the only jobs that have been produced are jobs in the government, are jobs in social programs, welfare offices, Social Security offices, 20,000 IRS agents. These are the false dichotomy of the job situation. We're not innovating computers and producing exports like iPhones and you know, MacBooks and, you know, cell phones that we produce and we sell to the world, and then companies grow and we employ citizens of the United States. That is not happening. That was happening under Donald Trump. That was happening, but now it's not. So the Democrats do what they always do. They rely on government to fix their problems. They throw money at it and they rely on government. The two things that don't work historically, throwing money at things to fix the problem and relying on the government to fix the problem never work. There is no self-interest in any government official or employee to produce. They get paid no matter what. But you as an individual citizen, If you're like Steve Jobs and, Steve Wozniak, and you created Apple computers in your garage, your money goes up. Your fame, your fortune goes up as your company grows. If you're just working on the side of the road and you're building roads, which is an admirable job, the infrastructure we have is amazing, and these extraordinary men who keep it afloat do an amazing job. I'm not downplaying that. I'm simply saying that you don't have any incentive to build the road any faster or make it more efficient. You don't make any more money. You make your hourly or your salary, so you go and you work your hours and you go home. You're not going to become a billionaire doing it, so you're not going to fight hard. You're not going to, push and work yourself to the bone. Why would you? I wouldn't. You get nothing out of it. You get the same out of it as the guy who just shows up and kind of hangs out all day. He gets paid the same. So that's where the incentive structure comes in, and that's why when it comes to producing, government is not efficient. The private industry is efficient. The private industry has always been more efficient, and that's why the United States of America has risen to the top through capitalism, through self-interest, through individual liberty, not through government programs. Government programs do not help the economy. They destroy the economy. They've always destroyed the economy. Because as Ronald Reagan said, there's a certain point in socialism where you run out of other people's money and then you have nothing. You have nothing to show for it. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy, who is just all class, withdrew from the race. I mean, he got 6% of the vote in Iowa. Good on him for getting 6%. But he backed out of the race. And he endorsed Donald Trump. Let's hear what he had to say.
Now, this is a campaign founded on speaking the truth. Not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. Not just to the Democrats, but to our own side. And not just to other campaigns and candidacies, but to ours. And so I will stick to the truth tonight. The first hard truth, and this one's hard for me. I got to admit this. But we've looked at it every which way, and I think it is true that we did not achieve the surprise that we wanted to deliver tonight. And I think that that's just a hard fact that we're going to have to accept as a campaign. And the question then is, what do we do that is right for our country? And so Purv and I, we actually didn't make this contingency plan before everybody told us to. We said, no, we're not doing that. But we talked about it tonight. We took a little bit of time in our apartment in Des Moines before coming here to make some hard choices. And I wanted to make a couple of announcements tonight to get the business out of the way. And then I want to tell you where we're going. As of this moment, we are going to suspend this presidential campaign. And this is going to have to be, there is no path for me to be the next president absent things that we don't want to see happen in this country. And I think that I am very worried for our country. I think we are skating on thin ice as a nation. We have done everything in our part to make, and done, every one of us in this room has done our part to save this country. And I am so proud of every one of you who have lifted us up. But we're a campaign founded on the truth. And so that.
So, I mean, that's a class act. He's smart. Vivek is very smart. He knows what he's doing. He has said if he's offered the vice presidency, he's not going to take it. That's what he said. I mean, of course he's going to say that. Who knows? We won't know unless it's offered to him. Now, Donald Trump is not going to say who the vice president is. Of course not. They're going to keep that in their pocket because they probably have not fully acknowledged or decided who it's going to be. So the vice president choice is going to be crucial. It's going to be crucial for Donald Trump to secure the election. And, you know, if the polls that I have seen have said that it should be a woman or a person of color or a woman of color that's going to help pick up those straggling voters. And that's kind of where the vice presidency has come to. It's, you know, I'm over here and I have 60% of the country, but, you know, you're over here and you have, you know, 10% of the country. If we come together, theoretically, we got 70%, right? So there are some options. There are some options. Vivek Ramaswamy and Donald Trump have basically the same policies, the same political ideology, the same candor with the media, the same demeanor, the same aggressiveness. So does Vivek Ramaswamy bring more to the table with Donald Trump? The answer is no. Because if you're going to support Vivek Ramaswamy, chances are you're going to support Donald Trump, right? If Vivek's out of the race, which he is now. So you have Nikki Haley, who I do not like. She's a Democrat. I mean, she idolizes Hillary Clinton. She said Hillary Clinton's the reason she got into politics. She's the reason they removed the Confederate flag from South Carolina and subsequently all the Confederate statues in the country. Well, she wasn't the reason they removed the statues, but she was part of that ideology that, hey, no, we're going to remove the Confederate flag, which is debatable. There are points I see on that and points that I don't. So who is Donald Trump's VP going to be? I mean, I think that's a valid question, but I don't think that Donald Trump even knows. To be honest with you, I don't think that he even knows. This is him on Fox News, and let's see what he had to say about the VP.
Who would be in the running for vice president?
Well, I can't tell you that, really. I mean, I know who it's going to be.
Give us a hint.
We'll do another show sometime.
Well, what about any of the people who you've run against? Would you be open to mending fences with any of them?
I will. I've already started to like Christie better.
Christie for vice president?
I don't see it. That would be an upset. Christie for vice president. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to announce.
Who would be in the running for?
I mean, obviously he's joking. It will never be Chris Christie. Chris Christie's not likable. He got 0.9% of the Iowa caucus. Just a disgrace. But that is the next step. And strategically, they're going to need to vote for somebody who's going to pick up more of the moderate or left of center votes, which could be Nikki Haley. I mean, she is a female. I don't like her. Donald Trump was talking about her, and then they advised her not to be. They advised him not to pick her, so we will see. Ron DeSantis, I would like to see Ron DeSantis, but again, it may pick up more of the base Republican votes. So Ron has a very supportive base. Right, I'm a huge fan of Ron DeSantis. I poke fun at him sometimes, but that's my job. But Ron DeSantis is only going to pick up more conservative votes. It's not going to pick up the independents, and the independent votes is what they need. So that is going to be a massive decision for the Trump campaign, which I'm sure they are close to coming to a decision. They're in the middle of vetting. They're going to be seriously vetting people, and we'll see. We will see. Here is a clip about another news clip about the vice presidency. Let's watch this.
Well, sometimes, maybe not sometimes, maybe in the case of Trump, his VP pick could just be designed to drive DC bonkers, right?
Yes. Well, there's a number of people he could pick to drive them bonkers. I mean, most of them actually, but he could definitely pick somebody who's a firebrand like he is. I mean, if he picked Carrie Lake, they would lose their minds because they hate her as much as him. But there are a number of people out there. They've thrown out Dr. Ben Carson as an option. Byron Donalds, who knows? Here's the thing, Andrew. I think that we have a pretty deep bench in terms of options for VP and the future of our political party. I do not think the Democrat Party has that. Everyone thought that Gavin Newsom was the future, and then he did that debate with Ron DeSantis, and he finally finally had to stand in front of the American people, and people realized that he actually wasn't very smart or as slick as people thought.
Ben Carson's a good option. Again, a person of color. These are the things that they're taking into consideration and that they have to take into consideration because it's very important that Donald Trump picks the right candidate to win the presidency. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Don't forget to visit ryanfsamuels.com. Get yourself some cool merchandise and sign up for our newsletter. Follow this channel and hit that like button, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ryan Samuels Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.